going on, everyone? Some comfortable chairs, right?
I know they upgraded the chairs out here. This is good. Hi, everybody. Thank you, those of you joining us here in the studio. Thank you, everybody watching at home or at work. If you're watching at work, we won't tell on you. And mostly, thank you, Gallant, for coming and spending some time with us here.
Of course. Thank you. Thank everyone else for having me, too.
So, as I said, we're going to talk for a little bit up here, and then we'll take some questions from you guys, either here or out in webland. So think about what you want to ask our guest here. And so I guess just, to start, you're here as the touring is starting to move into full liftoff here, coming off of Afropunk this weekend, and a couple of shows through the city through the week. How's the adjusting into more of the touring life going?
It's going well. It's always exciting to be back. I went to NYU, so are you sure? You sure about it? You sure you're excited? No, NYU is incredible. An incredible experience. But I had a love-hate relationship with the city. But every time I come back, I always take away something a little bit more sugar-coated. So for me, yesterday playing Afropunk, really introduced me to, how beautiful the city can actually be. Really just thematically, and just the people that have such an open-minded kind of worldview. And it feels good to be back in New York. This is my first headline tour in the U.S., and so it's going to be really interesting and exciting for me to continue to connect with audiences that I just haven't gotten a chance to meet yet. You
jumped ahead on what was going to be my next question, but I know that's always good. That means we're going the right way, because we are here in New York, right at or around the corner from where you were going to school.
We're
right here,
right there. Yeah. Wow.
So I was going to ask about the experience, the emotion of coming back. I know that the New York part of your, that chapter of your life had its rewards and had its challenges. Is there a different meaning to come back here at all, much less to come back here on the heels of the kind of success that you've seen the last few months?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the most important thing for me is that I continue to, evolve, and part of that evolution was understanding what about the city I didn't connect with, and I think it mostly just had to do with the fact that I'm from the suburbs, so it was hard to really latch on just, geographically, topographically, to the kind of city atmosphere and the struggle that is living in New York. But I definitely feel the love, and that's the most important thing, that I continue to realize that the intention is good, and there's just so many different pockets of experience that you can be inspired by here. So it's really the greatest city in the world. It feels great to be back.
So let's talk a little bit about this record. Let's talk a little bit about Onology. As we heard in the song that brought us up here, there's a very distinct sound to this record. There's actually a series of very distinct sounds about this record, and I'm curious if you went in with a sound in your head, with an idea of what you wanted this record to sound like, or if that was something that did emerge through the sessions, through the process, and kind of find that shape. Did you feel like there was a target you were going for, or did you feel like you worked your way there over the time?
I think it was, closer to the latter. It feels like, before this album, I released an EP called Zebra, and prior to that, making music, to me, especially in New York, kind of felt like I was taking this personality test, and it was kind of like everyone around me, all my peers were like, okay, cool, so this is what being an artist is. Now take this personality test and match what I just told you being an artist is. And after doing that, um, for so long, I realized this is just not what I want, and it's not really helping me grow, and it was kind of straying me away from why I really started experimenting with music in the first place. So with that EP was really when I started approaching it in a way that was a little bit less mindful, but very self-aware in the sense that I wasn't necessarily trying to do anything or be a caricature of myself. I was just trying to express whatever I wanted to express in the most honest and most vulnerable way that I could possibly do that. So when I focus a lot less on trying to think about a sound or a kind of theme or really anything that's tied it together or made it something that was premeditated, I just decided to go with the first thought, best thought approach. And through that process, I ended up speaking a lot of truths that I just never either was really just aware of before that just brought me to a better place overall. And after finishing that first project and seeing the growth, it really motivated me to go even further and dig even deeper with this album that I just released.
Well, what was it, to you, what is it that emerged as you were sort of letting go of those expectations or, whether imposed on you or, feeling like they needed to be there? As you started to be able to strip that away, what did you see starting to come out?
I felt, I remember feeling like, maybe this whole thing just isn't for me, like the industry vibe, if I have to pretend to be one thing and I have to try and remember, what to say and how to react to it just didn't make sense. And so I kind of gave that up. And I guess the biggest thing that I took away was that, just ironically, after I let all of that go, that's when I actually started to see some kind of support start to kind of rise up in a very organic and real way. And so I guess, if anything, the biggest thing that I took away was, what I had to say was important all along, just for me, despite everyone else saying that I had to fit into a certain category or that I had to conform to a certain set of ideals that, these people got from, I guess, a textbook or just observing everyone else on a very aesthetic outside level instead of digging deep and trying to figure out where that message actually came from.
So was there one song, or was there even one piece of one song, or, a line or a moment or anything that where you could feel it start to come together for you? Was there something that, felt like the moment where everything started to lock up and you could get a sense of, oh, okay, now I can see what I might be able to do with this?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a slow kind of process. Obviously there was the jump from, okay, I'm writing stuff that I don't care about, to now I'm writing things that I don't want anyone else to hear, that are really just for me. And so once I got over that hurdle, I kind of saw it with every, thing that I made from that point on. I think most recently, a lot of the stuff on this album is even just different from the EP that I, released myself, because it's a lot more self-assured in that I know that that's what, that's why I'm doing this in the first place. So it's a lot more forward. My last EP was very kind of hazy and it kind of stayed in one kind of lane, one emotion, because I was trying to figure that out. But on this, I'm figuring out a bunch of different things. So it's hard to pinpoint one song, but I do think that this is the project as a whole that does that for me the most.
It seems like you've talked a lot about, and it's sort of come up even here, that in the songs you're writing and in the lyrics that you're writing, that there's the hope of getting to things that are more vulnerable, more substantial, more personal. Do you feel like there's an absence of that in the music that you hear that's out there? Did that feel like does that feel like even something that, obviously it needs to be, you feel like it needs to be said? Should that go without saying, or do you feel like it really is such a contrast that you want to make a point of it?
No, I mean, I feel like people express themselves in different ways. I think every form of music is completely valid. Some people feel that they really have to literally dictate whatever their message is. Other people dictate a very kind of silly on the outside message, but then just through the virtue of their existence, they kind of embody their message. So I think everyone's different. I didn't necessarily analyze the space and then try to fit into anything. Again, I just was trying to approach it in a completely less thought is the way to go kind of way, and to do something that was just really honest, that really just helped me. It was really music that I was making just as therapy for me. And I mean that in a real way, because people say that in a cliche, this is the most personal thing. I had given up. I was not trying to have anybody listen to the stuff. So the fact that people began to respond to it when really this was something that I was using to get over hurdles that were really holding me down during a period of time in my life was just completely out of left field for me.
So let's back it up. What's the first music that you remember hearing, or what's the first music that you remember making an impression on you?
I think I want to say my parents weren't musical at all. My dad's in real estate. My mom works for the government, so it's just I was kind of on my own with that. But I did connect to a lot of 90s R&B type stuff in the beginning. It was just, it has the way it feels is very inspiring. It wasn't necessarily anything that they were saying that really kind of sparked anything within me. I kind of credit people coming out of the UK at that time, probably mainly Seal, for lyrically expanding my mind as to what is acceptable to say. I didn't know that you could be that honest and idiosyncratic in your message until I heard that kind of music. And then from there, my peers at the time were listening to things in the alternative space, and that intrigued me a lot. Obviously, I grew up in a time where LimeWire was king, and I don't remember. I honestly, I don't think I've ever bought a record. Buying music is not for me. But yeah, I just went on LimeWire and just downloaded everything I could, and just everything. So I had that kind of ability to not be that loyal to one artist or one genre of music. And I guess that just really it broadened my horizons. It's just like traveling the world. You come back with a completely different perspective, and I had the opportunity to do that very early on. So I would say it's really just a mix match of a bunch of different things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, maybe this has already been happening to a point, but a generation now making music who grew up with access and the ability to listen to all music all the time.
Right.
Where, for so long it did mean seeking things out in a very different way, and I think identifying sort of tribally in a very different way. I know this is some of the stuff you were talking about and studying it when you were at school, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But
sure.
Now that, anything you're interested in, anything you're curious about is right there. How that's going to come out in the music that people make and will make moving forward is going to be fascinating to watch.
I agree, for real.
Not a question, as an observation. But so tell me about learning. I mean, from, I guess, writing, really kind of in isolation and on your own and for yourself and all of that, to becoming a performer, to being able to take this stuff on stage. Was it a difficult leap to make? What was the big learning curve in moving from, as you said, this making music as your own therapy into doing this publicly?
Yeah, I mean, it was still kind of, I guess I had the opportunity to kind of just really look at it in the same therapeutic way that I looked at writing lyrics that I, wouldn't necessarily be able to speak to somebody. And I used to have a fear of elevators because I'm pretty claustrophobic, and it was challenging to get over. But the real way to kind of curb that fear was to just be exposed to it. So I had to just be in elevators as much as I could, and especially if I wanted to live in New York. And so after a while, I just completely got desensitized to that fear, and that's how I approached performing. It wasn't necessarily I was afraid of being on stage, but I'm one way when I feel like I don't have anyone looking over my shoulder, and I can kind of express what I need to express the same way that you go to the gym and you just keep punching a bag, You're not punching people on the street, hopefully. So I look at it like that. I honestly don't remember a lot of what I do on stage, and so I just kind of embrace that, and I recognize what the territory I'm about to enter into before I go on, and then when I get off stage, I'm appreciative that I had that outlet.
So one thing that's great for anybody watching right now is tomorrow night you've got a show out in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And that's going to be sent out to the world. You want to tell a little bit about what's going on around the show tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is going to be my first headlining New York show. It's at the Music Hall of Williamsburg, and thankfully the L is still running, so people can get there.
On a good day.
It's on a good day. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I have some friends coming through, so I'm looking forward to. It's going to feel like a homecoming for sure. And if you guys are free, I hope to see you guys in the audience if you want to come and check it out.
And for those not in town, the
and they
go90.
can perfect. Yeah, so that's even better, I think.
Simulcast on Go90, straight out of Brooklyn tomorrow night. Yeah,
absolutely.
You said this is now as the first headlining shows. You're playing longer shows. Are you starting? You're starting to introduce new stuff.
Yeah, playing a lot of stuff for the first time. I kind of added, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 songs from the album that I just never did live. And the first time I did it was in my hometown in D.C. And then it's interesting. I'm still kind of finding my footing, and because every song I feel like has a different meaning in public than it does, on the record. Because you kind of have to, or at least for me, I put myself in a very specific mindset for each tune. So it's been interesting to kind of see it develop, and I'm really looking forward to the next 2 shows because it really is going to be just all new for me. I'm going to be learning more about myself each time, and so these next 2 shows are going to be pivotal.
Well, I'm always curious about that moment when you take new stuff and bring it out to the world like that it's had a certain meaning for you and for the folks who worked on it and all that, but then you're standing in front of people and watching them respond. I mean, what have you learned, up till now as you've been going through that, and what surprised you about how things do or don't play out once you're up there?
I think the biggest thing that I learned is, my audience reminds me of just my friends. It's impossible to pin them down in any kind of stereotypical fashion. Like you can't say, oh, it's this age group or it's this kind of other group. It really is just an incredibly diverse group of people. Each time. But when I have those conversations, or when I really shyly say like a couple things on stage, I can tell that they've been in that same position. I can tell that a lot of these people were the quietest people at the barbecue, at the family cookout. You know, I can tell, and it's really comforting the same way it is to go to Comic-Con and you see everyone who, you know, loves Super Smash Brothers as much as you do, to constantly be in these situations where I get to connect and interact with people who share my values. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what these next two shows are like.
Give them the place to all be together.
Exactly, yeah.
All be together by
Finally.
themselves. All right. The clock on the wall tells me my time is out, so let's take some questions from you guys out here, starting right up front.
Hey, Gallant.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
I really like the artwork that you're using for your album, and I noticed you have a similar design on your shirt.
Oh, yes. Thank you. This
So-
is I don't usually wear my own shirts. This is embarrassing.
So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the inspiration behind the artwork.
Well, I put out this self-released EP, Zebra, in 2014, and I was focused a lot on, you know, me as a kid. I wanted to kind of work through that whole thing and try and break down those barriers that I had, you know, just with family, just with myself. And so I focused a lot on black and white and, you know, nostalgic pictures. After that, I saw how much it helped me. So I wanted to focus on now and see what I could do. So I took a picture of myself kind of in the current moment. And I went through, I honestly, I went through a really heavy depression when I was in New York, especially post-college. And I wanted to see the other side of that depression, because it's, you know, happiness isn't really these aren't emotions, they're perspectives. You change your perspective, and the way you live your life is a little bit more optimistic. And I wanted to paint that optimism. And so that's what the kind of iridescent gold is supposed to represent. And then I guess ironically, me wearing it is, you know, just a symbol of how comfortable I am with it at this point, when at one point I think it was a kind of a shame thing. So I'm proud to have overcome all the challenges that I faced, and now I wear it proudly.
Next
Thank
up
you for asking.
is right there.
Hi, I just wanted to know, when you're writing a song, what may be the hardest part, the chorus or like the verses? Or
It's weird because every time I write a song, it's different. You know, like it's a different setting. Usually, there's no real method that I've pinned down yet. But I would say I think the chorus might be a little bit more difficult, because it's the point where you have to be aware that you are writing a song, and whenever I'm aware that I'm actually, you know, doing that, it kind of, I feel like, throws a wrench in the kind of flow that, you know, I usually have, which is to just try and be as honest as possible, be as candid as possible, and say things in a very kind of literate way that I myself would like to read.
Are you somebody who writes all the time? Are
No.
you writing while you're out, or do you need to set time?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Well, when I'm in I kind of have this spark of inspiration, and then I'll take it'll be months at a time, you know, long months where that's kind of the mood that I'm in. But even when I'm writing, like I'll write, and then I'll like go and watch CNN for, you know, 15 minutes, and then I'll eat some pizza, and then I'll play a video game, and then I'll leave. And, you know, it's one of those things that just incorporates itself into my daily life. And right now, being on tour, you know, it's, you know, I was playing Wind Waker before I got here. So it's just kind of like, just different ways of life in different periods of time.
And over here.
Hey, Gallant.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Have any artists contacted you after your debut performance on TV on Tonight Show?
Oh man, I want to say yeah, but I've actually, I guess I was doing that. I did that while I was on tour, and while I was on tour, I got the opportunity to meet a bunch of, you know, people that you know, inspired me, and I got to work with some. Jack Garrett, I think, I put something out with him. He's someone that he's a peer of mine that I've always just thought was incredible. And I've kind of opened the lines of communication with some other artists. I don't know if I'm allowed to say all of their names because there's some things. Oh yeah, he's saying, yeah. My manager's back there. He said he's telling me not to say anything. But
you got to do some visible stuff with Seal.
Oh yeah. Seal is. I mean, he was my biggest inspiration and a hero of mine. And the fact that I got to collaborate with him was unreal. And I still can't believe that it happened. And but yeah, those kinds of things consistently kind of pop up, and it always surprises me each time. And I'm just so humbled and honored that they're listening in the first place.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hey, Megan.
I went to Aaron Allen King's concert last night, and I'm a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
I wanted to know who are your favorite artists?
Oh man, see that's a tough question because I really do listen to stuff that's just all across the board. But I will say right now, I really am appreciating the Nicki and the Dove project. And I mean, they've had, I think this is their third or maybe even, but it's a great project. It's incredible. It's such a nostalgic sound that they just nail, and really inspiring music.
Okay. All right, everybody. The album Onology is out now. Tomorrow night's show at Music Hall of Williamsburg will be live streamed on go90.com. Thank you all for coming out, and thank you to Gallant.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, guys.